The car, it wasn't on. The brakes failed. But, eyes filled with an unsettling calm, as if bracing himself for the inevitable. They were tempered with deliberately. He handed over a folder thick with documents and photos, yet the weight of his words was far heavier. Someone planned it all? His eyes became dark. Could be, or maybe not. Said clearly, losing his patience. Examination of Mizo's car revealed that the brakes failed prior to the accident, but a letter we found in her old apartment which she shared with her boyfriend Hinwo was telling otherwise. Hinwo never returned to that apartment following the accident, so I went there to investigate and find some clues. I found a diary there in which Mizo has poured her emotions. She wrote that she couldn't continue anymore, that she felt in this toxic, suffocating relationship. She mentioned that Hinwo is, but she couldn't inform anyone since Hinwo is insane enough to harm anyone close to her. She wrote how much she is scared of him and wanted to end herself before Hinwo could do so. She also mentioned that only Vine is her strength at this dark time, but she could not tell her to, as she can't put Vine in danger. Tang's chest tightened as he took the letter from the folder. Mizo's familiar handwriting sprawled across the page, each word a dagger in his heart. He read the lines in which Mizo confessed her pain, her loneliness, and the unbearable weight of her life that had become a prison. The letter read, I tried to tell myself it would get better and that I could make it work. But I'm just tired. I can't bear it anymore. I can't bear him anymore. The things he did to me are not explainable. He's a psycho. And I'm scared of him more than I'm scared of. I can't tell anyone about this, including Mom. She's already in Tahyang's love. I can't hurt her more by bringing her down with me under the burden of her mystery. So I decided to end myself one day and give myself the freedom I deserve. I'm sorry, but this is the only way I can find peace. I hope that I find the courage to end it soon. The paper trembled in Tahyang's hand. His jaw clenched, fighting against the wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. How come I didn't notice her pain? His voice barely above a whisper. Sometimes people hide their pain too well. The girl he loved and blamed all along was innocent, and too. This thought teared him more than it could relieve him. Wiping his tears that had silently rolled down his eyes, Tahyang took a deep breath before speaking again. It means Vine was innocent all along, and the real was celebrating his way through life. Yes, and you mentioned he tried to do something with Vine at the party. You should have asked Vine about it. Maybe she could help us more in this case. Do you think I can gaze into her eyes and demand answers after everything she has been through? After everything I have put her through? Deafening silence, heavy with the weight of regret, filled the room, and after a while, Jimin continued. Don't tell anyone about this yet. There is a CCTV footage of that accident that I am trying to get my hands on. After I receive that footage, you can inform everyone about this matter, and we will proceed with the legal actions. But we have the CCTV footage. Franz. That's the edited one. It has cuts at the end. Someone may have messed with it too. Tahyang nodded and stared out at the world beyond the glass of window. However, inside him, everything felt shattered. The dim flickering lights of the old bathroom casted long shadows on the cracked tiles, and the air was thick with mustiness. Vine banged on the door again, her fist aching from the effort. Her voice was hoarse from shouting, but no one seemed to hear. Help! Is anyone there? She called out, panic rising in her chest. How long had she been locked in here? Hours. The fear gnawed at her, so she stepped a little away from the door and collapsed against the wall, trying to regain her breath. How did she end up locked in the abandoned bathroom of Tahyang's office? Well, he brought her with him and asked her to wait for him in the office till he returned from meeting someone. However, she refused to occupy his office and instead went to the waiting room to wait for him. He did not push her much and let her do whatever she wanted. After a while, Tang's female secretary brought wine some snacks and accidentally threw juice on her. Then she guided Wine to this abandoned bathroom and locked her inside. But it wasn't like that secretary did all of this because she had her eyes on him. She was just working for another woman, Han Yun-hee, who was willing to do anything to disrupt Tang's life. After all, Tang had ruined her business for his wife, and it wasn't payback. After locking Wine inside, the secretary called Yun-hee and informed her of her actions while standing in front of the bathroom door, and Wine heard everything. It all made sense, but it did not make it any less terrifying. Suddenly, Vine heard heavy footsteps echoing down the hallway outside. Her heart leaped with hope, but her mental state didn't help her at all at the time of calamity. She wanted to yell, but couldn't open her mouth. Her breathing became harder, and her mind went numb. She remembered the time when Hyunwoo misbehaved with her and felt herself reliving the moment, even though there was no Hyunwoo with her. Suddenly, the footstep came to a halt, and all that remained was silence. Then a deep, worried voice echoed, and she looked towards the door almost immediately. Wine, if you are in there, then please step back from the door, he commanded and waited for a response, but upon getting none, he chose to act quickly. The door handle rattled, followed by a loud crash as he kicked the door open. The door flew off its hinges, and he stood there with worry and anger, his chest rising and falling heavily as if he had sprinted the entire way. His eyes locked onto Wine, and in an instant he was by her side, kneeling down and engulfing her in his warm embrace. "Are you okay? Did she hurt you?" His arms tightening protectively around her as if he couldn't bear to let her go. After a while, she shook her head, her body trembling, but couldn't bring herself to say anything. Tang cupped her face gently, tilting her chin up to meet his eyes. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there sooner." His jaw clenched and his gaze darkened. "This won't happen again, I promise." Looking into her empty gaze, devoid of any emotion or tears, he thought to himself, why all of this has to happen to him? Why the heaven has decided to go against him? Why everyone hurts her, including himself? "You can stop now," he moved his hands. "Stop what?" frowned, being confused. "Acting like you care. Remember how you locked me in darkness on our wedding night? Your secretary just helped you. You should give her a release." Leaving him perplexed, she stood up without his support and began walking out without waiting for him. "She's going to pay for this," his voice dropping dangerously low. He got on his foot and followed Wine out. As if on cue, the secretary appeared at the end of the hallway, her eyes wide with shock when she saw Wine walking out, followed by Tang, who was leaping behind her like a dark shadow. She froze, panic flashing across her face, but it was too late. "You have 3 seconds to exit the building. You are fired." The secretary's mouth opened and closed as if she was trying to form a defense, but nothing came out. Tang took a step forward and she flinched, backing away quickly. "3. He began, his voice deadly calm. 2. The secretary turned and bolted, her footsteps echoing as she fled down the hallway, leaving behind the tense silence. Tang held his phone to his ear and spoke. "You shouldn't step out of the building." Commanding his men in authoritative tone, he hung up the call. He took a deep sigh, his anger dissipating as he turned back to Wine, his expression softening. "Let's get you out of here," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm not letting you out of my sight again. Save your acting for the right audience." Brushing his hand off of her, she crossed him and made her way out. Few days later, at home. Vine sat curled up on the couch, staring blankly at the TV screen. The show playing didn't register in her mind, as it just served as the background noise to the storm of thoughts swirling in her head. Every time she tried to think about Taehyung's changed behavior or more like affectionate behavior towards her, her thoughts get replaced by memories of his harsh words and cold looks she had endured in the past. Ah, there she is, my favorite daughter-in-law, beautiful as always. Her mother-in-law, Mrs. Kim, entered the living room with a playful grin on her face and mischief twinkling in her eyes. Vine instantly stood up and bowed respectfully. Mrs. Kim wrapped an arm around Vine's shoulder, giving her a quick, affectionate squeeze. Welcome home. Mrs. Kim smiled at her and started chit-chatting with her, and shortly after Mr. Kim entered with Taya. Vine greeted Mr. Kim too, but avoided eye contact with Taya as usual. Meanwhile, his eyes were fixed only on her. You guys take rest. I'll prepare dinner. You don't need to, honey. There are many meals. But I want to cook for you. Smiled at Mrs. Kim. You're spoiling this one, eh? I think my son hit the jackpot when he married you. But tell me, lean closer and whisper to her. How do you put up with him? You must have the patience of a saint. Vine genuinely laughed at her words, but Tang kept staring at her, enchanted by her smile. How bad he wanted to be the reason of her smile, but alas, looked like this wasn't possible in this life. Mr. Kim elbowed Taehyung slightly to break his trance. Don't be creepy. Controlled his laugh. Taehyung covered his embarrassment and spoke to his mother. Are you trying to get my wife against me? Playfully inquired. Oh, no, I was just telling her how she could have done so much better. But she's stuck with you now. She's right, wine is a catch, and you're lucky she didn't realize that before the wedding. I'm surrounded by traitors. Shook his head dramatically. For a moment, Vine forgot all of her worries and smiled wholeheartedly, which managed to tame Taehyung's beast even more. But on a serious note, Vine, if he ever gives you too much trouble, just come to me, I'll set him straight. Spoke with scared expressions. I don't feel safe in this house anymore. Does anyone else feel the same? Vine glanced at him with her soft gaze, feeling light due to the warmth of the happy atmosphere. However, she had no idea that her little smile and a soft glance could make and break him at the same time. At night, Vine stood stiff in the middle of the room as Taehyung entered and locked the door behind. Just adjust for a few days till mom and dad stays, requested her, hiding the fact that he begged his parents to stay over, as he wanted to share the room with her. They had to stay in one room, which they never did after Taehyung locked her in the bathroom on their first night. Now the thought of it scared Vine to the core and she felt her body shivering and breath getting heavy. Are you okay? Worried. Her eyes glued to the floor. Now you're worried after everything? Nice play. Stepped towards her. Vine, believe me, I care about you. You didn't believe me when it mattered, so why should I believe you care now? She finally looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and anger that made his chest ache. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. She was right, and they both knew it. He had let her down when she needed him the most, and now he was paying the price. Still, he couldn't just walk away. I'm not giving up on you. I don't care. Saying this, she walked to the cabinet, got out the spare mattress, comforter, and pillow, and proceeded to arrange them on the floor to sleep. Taehyung, who was watching her silently, finally made his mind to take action. So he grabbed her wrist to stop her from setting the bed, but she jerked his hand, causing both of them to lose their balance. Kang held her by her wrist to prevent her from falling, but his foot slipped, and they both ended up falling on the bedding on the floor. Fortunately, her head on the pillow, but unfortunately, him on her.